Hello there, welcome to Feeding Artists. My name's Amanda, and today I'm going to be talking about my favorite albums and EPs of 2021. So just like last year, I'm going to break this up into sort of a heavier music category and then also more of like a rock, indie, alternative category. I'm not going to be ranking the albums within these categories, but I will have a number one album just because in both categories there is one album that I want to specifically highlight because I really enjoyed it. And just so you know my ranking criteria, I'm ranking them mostly based on three things. Number one is my own personal preference. Number two is how much I like the band and just generally how much I want to promote them. And then number three is basically if I would want to listen to it again. And that's mostly just because I listen to a lot of music and there's a lot of albums that I like and that I enjoy, but I might not be super compelled to listen to them again. Let's get into it. We're going to start in the heavy category. So the first album I want to talk about is Oxidized by Frontier. This one I actually was listening to while I was baking bread, and so the first time I wasn't paying a ton of attention, but I went and listened to it again last night and kind of slaps. Pretty good album. It's pretty heavy, so if you're into heavy stuff, very cool. I don't know a ton about the band, so I don't have like a ton to say about it, but I can tell you that if you're baking bread, it's a good album, which is probably a weird review, but it's actually kind of funny because I thought I already listened to this album because the art reminds me a lot of This Is Called Survival by Pressure Cracks, which is also a really good album that I found this year. It came out last year, but I can just, we're just mentioning it, and if you happen to listen to it, that could be cool. So, alright, so the next album is Darko by Darko. This is also really heavy. I love the instrumentals in this one. I love the vocals in this one, and if you've ever listened to Darko, you know that they have a pretty unique style. So if you're into, again, very heavy things, would recommend it. This next album is from a band that I like a lot. If you've been paying any attention to my background, you might see a convenient little poster that's signed by three of the band members that I love dearly. This band is While She Sleeps, and the album is Sleep Society. So this one's a really exciting one for me just because, honestly, I wasn't like a huge fan of their last album. And so I wasn't sure what direction they were going to take their music in since that one was pretty different from their past releases. So to me, this was kind of the album of like, do I still love this band or not? And fun fact, I do still love this band. This album was really cool because I think it took a lot of elements from their older stuff and then also from their newest album and sort of combined it together in a way that I feel makes sense for them as a band. So I'm really excited to see where they go with this new sound since it is very different, but it's still While She Sleeps, and I just think it's cool that, I don't know, they're just like always doing something just a little bit different in the metalcore community. Alright, next we have our first EP. This is A Tear in the Fabric of Life by Knocked Loose. So if you don't know my general opinion of Knocked Loose, I've always really loved their instrumentals, but I was never a huge fan of Brian's voice just because it's so high-pitched, and I'm very much like a low-pitched gutturals type of person. So that's still kind of my general opinion of this EP as well, but I do think that this is probably the best thing they've released so far, and I really love the song structures in this album. I think that's sort of the thing that made this specific EP rise above some other things, maybe? So yeah, I love when bands just kind of think about things as a whole work of like music versus just a song and a song and a song that just go in a row. And I could tell that they did this for this album, and I could tell that they were putting a lot of thought into the vibes they wanted for their song and song structure and things like that. So that's something that goes a long way for me and that I really appreciate, and that's kind of why I wanted to throw this album in the mix. Alright, the next album we have is Fortitude by Gojira. Funny thing about Gojira, I feel like this is a band that everyone I know that listens to them is just like, oh my god, they're so good, but then we just never actually listen to them. And I'm like so guilty of that myself. I need to actually listen to their music more, but I listened to the album and my reaction was, oh my god, this is so good, because of course it was. It's Gojira, they're amazing. Like, Gojira was my first concert back from the concert famine of 2020 that was the coronavirus pandemic. This was my first time seeing Gojira, and they were really awesome live, and I'm very happy that I got to see them, and I think it was a really cool, just like, wow, I need to be at a show. Yeah, I hope that made sense. So yeah, overall, this album is really good. I think Gojira is a band that's filled with really cool people, and I just gotta listen to their stuff more. Alright, next up we have Bullet for My Valentine's self-titled album, which I mean, everyone's excited about this one, right? Like, am I just biased, or is everyone excited? Because, like, Bullet's heavy again. But yeah, I mean, their first 3 albums were really influential to me getting into metal, and I mean, I fucking love them so much. I don't know what to say about things. I'm not entertaining. I'm just really excited. I don't have anything specific to say. It's just like, oh my god, they're actually playing metal and it's cool. Okay, before we get to the #1 album of the heavy music category, I have one honorable mention. This is Absolvere by Signs of the Swarm. This is a band that I found this year, and I really like this album, but I'm gonna kind of do another, like, this is supposed to be about albums of 2021, but I'm not gonna make it about that moment. Because I originally found them through an album called The Disfigurement of Existence, and that one, I remember when I heard it, thought it was really, really cool, and I was, like, obsessed with it. So if you haven't heard of the band, I would honestly recommend starting there, and then maybe listening to their new album. There's nothing wrong with their new album, it's just, like, I get tied to particular albums, so I kind of want to recommend the other one instead. But they're both very good, so I'm gonna include it here because I enjoyed their new album as well. Okay, and now my #1 album for the heavy category, if you've talked to me at all, you already know, it's Silent Planet's new album, because I love them and they're amazing. I've had this CD in my car since I got it a few weeks ago. It's still in my car, like I'm a fraud, there's nothing in this, I just took this for the video. When this album came out, I was really excited because I love Silent Planet, they're one of my favorite bands ever. Some of the sweetest people ever too. So they're definitely just one of those bands that I, like, really want to support and just, like, throw all my money at. If you remember from last year, I recommended Trilogy from Silent Planet as, like, the only single just because it was so good that I'm like, I know this is for albums, but I gotta throw you a single. So that's on this album. Panopticon is also really, really good. Anadonia is one of my favorite songs off this album as well. The Lost Inside a Fever Dream line, just, like, the way they did the mixing on that and with all the different vocal tracks is, like, so cool. And every time I hear it, I'm like, yes, yes. The song right after it, Till We Have Faces, is also a huge favorite. And if you don't think that I'm gonna be, like, scream singing along to all the clean parts whenever I get to see them live again, you are very mistaken, because I will. But yeah, overall, this is, like, the best album in existence. Maybe not in existence, but it's definitely one of my favorites, so... Alright, so now we're going into the more, like, rock, all indie, lighter stuff category, I guess. I'm gonna start off with Horizons by Starset. I love Starset, and they're a band that I used to listen to a lot, and then I kind of stopped for a little bit, and then this year I feel like I've been sort of getting back into them again. So this was a cool album to come out, and a cool time for it to come out, I guess, because their last one, honestly, I didn't listen to that much, and I don't really have an opinion on it. It's just like I just didn't listen to it that much. I don't know. This one's really good. I love that it's an hour long because I just feel like a lot of albums are like a half hour, 40 minutes, and sometimes I just want to throw an album on and not have to deal with it. And this is a good one for that because all the songs are great. This album basically just sounds like Starset. If you like Starset, you probably like the album. And they're always a band that I recommend to people that like kind of hard rock and like electronic-y stuff because they're just like, to me, they're like the OGs of like putting that shit together and making it sound good. Alright, so the next thing I want to talk about is an EP. It's by an artist called Ellis, and it's called Nothing Is Sacred Anymore. I love Ellis. If I ever want like sad girl indie pop or whatever, like she's the first person that I go to. Ellis is really cool because I feel like she has a really unique voice. It kind of has that general like light and fluttery type quality that a lot of people within that genre have. But I've like tried to sort of cover her songs before, and I've always had a hard time trying to hit that like specific tonality that she has. I think my favorite song off this EP is Hospital. It's just the one I keep going back to. But yeah, just overall like really chill, relaxing vibes. And I love Ellis. She's awesome. Alright, next up we have another EP which I really loved. This is by Nothing But Thieves and it's Moral Panic 2. So again, if you watched my video from last year, I put Moral Panic just in like the honorary mentions just because I like Nothing But Thieves, but I wasn't super duper into the album. And I feel like Moral Panic 2 for me is basically everything that I wish that album would be and more. I love every song on it. I think they all stand out really well on their own. But I also think that the pacing of the album and sort of the placement of the songs makes a lot of sense. They have some stuff that's more kind of their chill like rock side. They have some stuff with like a little bit of screaming, and then they have it end on an acoustic song, and I just have a really soft spot in my heart for albums that end on acoustic songs, so that's like a big 10 out of 10 for me. So this is another EP that after I heard it, it was like the only thing I wanted to listen to for a month, so I think I can confidently give it as a pretty strong recommendation for you guys. Next up, we have another album that's behind me. That is Sticky by Frank Carter and the Rattlesnakes. This band's really cool. I think what makes them extra cool is that every album they sort of evolve their sound a little bit. They started out more as, I don't want to say like a hardcore punk band. I don't know if it was really hardcore. I honestly have no idea what genre this band is. But they started out with some heavier stuff, and then they kind of went into, I guess, more of like a pop rocky type vibe. In my opinion, this album is like everything that modern punk is / should be. Just because it's kind of weird. There's certain things in it that are a little bit different. It's still like mainstream enough, but I could tell that a lot of this album was sort of just Frank doing whatever he wanted, and it came out really cool. And I feel like that's sort of the embodiment of punk. It's just like making cool stuff that you just want to do and just making something cool with it. Other funny things about this CD, now that I have this as a CD, number one, I got it signed, and it's really funny because their signatures are both like literally just the number 2, which is like kind of hilarious. And then also, like, if you take out the CD, they have a thing in here that says, "Why are you still buying CDs?" And I thought it was hilarious. Like, if you want an answer to why I'm still buying CDs, it's because my car has a CD player, and that's the way I play music. And also, I have a whole drawer under my bed filled with CDs that gives me immense amounts of serotonin. This album's really cool. It's really different. My favorite song off of it is "Take Me to the Brink." So if you want a specific song recommendation, that would be the one. Okay, so I have 2 honorable mentions for this category. The first one is by Boston Manor, and it's their EP, Desperate Times, Desperate Pleasures. I actually didn't realize I listened to Boston Manor this much, but apparently they're my top 5 artists on Spotify for this year, so that's cool. But I really liked this EP. My favorite song off of it was "I Don't Like People and They Don't Like Me," because I think it's a funny song title, and it also just kind of bops. And my second honorable mention is "Ain't It Tragic" by Dead Sara. I don't feel like I've gotten a full album from Dead Sara in a while. I know they released an EP like a few years ago, but I always thought they were a really cool band, mostly because their singer Emily just has a really unique voice. They are a band that sometimes I sort of cherry pick songs from a little bit more, which is mostly why this is just an honorable mention. But I did genuinely enjoy most of the songs on this album. I think they have a really unique style, and if you're into sort of like female-fronted alt-rock, they're definitely a band to check out. Alright, so now we have our number 1 soft album of the year, and that is Ever Blossom by This Wildlife. So This Wildlife is another one of my favorite bands that I love dearly, and I have all their CDs, and I play them in my car all the time. This is definitely one of those bands that I play when I'm like super stressed so that I can just like calm down. I mean, I do feel like some of their songs are a bit tear-inducing. On this one specifically, Still Wondering Why You Left Me Behind is like, aww. Like, what? It's like so sad. And if you read the post that Kevin posted on Instagram, like, this shit's so sad. I love This Wildlife. They're like a band I want to just learn all their songs. Their music's super relaxing, and all their songs are just good. Like, they're just good, you know? This is like one of those albums that I could just like confidently pre-order because I know it's gonna be my favorite before I even hear it. So if you're into soft rock, you're into chill things, you're a generally anxious person or whatever, this is an album that I would highly recommend. It is my number 1 of this category, and yeah, I love them a lot. So I hope you do too. Alright, so that's the end of my video. I hope it wasn't too awkward, and I hope that I gave you some good album recommendations. If you have anything that you want to recommend to the overall society of the internet, feel free to put it in the comments. This year I was a little bit more picky about my album recommendations, so there was a lot that I have listened to that I enjoyed that isn't included in this video, but I really was just trying to talk about my favorites. And with that, if you like this video, give it a like, subscribe to my channel, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day. Woo!